Thanks everyone, and it's been fascinating reading about the conference over the last day and a bit on Twitter. It certainly seems like it's been fascinating debate. It's been interesting to see the reaction to Mark Thompson's presentation yesterday, for example. So, GDS. Very quick backstory to GDS, and I want to talk a lot more about some of the lessons we've learned, painfully in some cases, in central government. I'm going to talk a little about our perspective on local, just a little. I hope you'll pick up some themes that will be applicable to the world you're in. I'm highly, highly cognizant that the view from where I sit in the centre probably gives me just enough knowledge to be dangerous. So bear that in mind. I certainly don't come with the answers for your challenges. Let's just stop backstory to GDS. GDS was founded as a result of a report written by Martha Lane Fox in the summer of 2010 at the request of Francis Lord, the Minister for the Cabinet Office. A report fabulously brief, and it said do 4 things. Create GDS, fix online publishing, fix digital transactions, and build it all with APIs. The first one, create GDS, the really interesting part of that was a clarion call accepted by ministers for a fundamental transformation. Revolution, not evolution, is the subtitle to Mark's report. And that revolution is about a realignment of how government views its services and their design. A realignment that is manifest through digital, but is a realignment around the needs and interests of the users, trumping the structures of government. Viewing our services, making them simple and elegant and cost-effective through the eyes of the users. The creation of GDS also came with some pretty heavy mandates in terms of spend control, in terms of domain powers, in terms of service standard powers, ability to agree or not agree to services going live. So we are a pretty unique beast to central government. Please bear that in mind. We started off by fixing publishing. We've then, over the last 18 months, 2 years, really brought our mind to wholesale service transformation, not just the website of things, that's the easy bit in many ways, but actually taking the opportunity of digital to fundamentally transform how organisations deliver value to their users. Again, aligned around the needs of users, not the structures and ways of working of government. And the fourth point, hopefully you heard some echoes yesterday from Mark Thompson on this, was an edict from Martha to build it all with APIs, because that's the way the web works these days, and that's the way that digital organisations that are thriving in this ecosystem are really making the most of the opportunities. So we published a strategy in November 2012. Here's our objective. Digital services so straightforward and convenient that those who can use them choose to do so, while those who can't are not excluded. It is digital by default, not by compulsion. Our objective is services that are so simple that if you can use them, you should be able to. And we are putting increasing effort into bringing those who are not online with our digital inclusion efforts, but our main focus is to simplify the services so those who are already online, already have the skills, at least they use them. Our mantra is this: simpler, clearer, faster. If you cut a GDS person in half, you'll find those 3 words through them like a sticky rock. From a service perspective that thinks about simpler, clearer, faster services, from that you get savings and you get flexibility and you get innovation. It's that way around. You don't save money and then make simpler services. It's a message we've worked hard to ensure ministers fully understand. We currently work in 5 significant areas. We have a team managing GovUK, a transformation team, an identity assurance team, a technology program, and a performance platform. GovUK, hopefully most of you have used, you'll know something about. It's 10 million users a week. It's 335 agencies and ALBs have now moved their material. We've rewritten all the content that's targeted at most normal people moving on there to make it simpler, clearer, and faster. We've changed the publishing model. We've saved about £50 million a year, most of which was on licensing and hosting technology that very few civil servants now miss. We have a few agencies left to go, and then we're really going to get working, continually improving gov.uk. It will never be finished, ever. There's still plenty to do. We do thousands of software releases a year. We've done over 4,000, we do 10 a day. we're never going to be finished. However, our main shift in focus happened about 18 months ago, aligned with the publication of the digital strategy, gov.uk is now 2, which was to help departments transform their services. Note my language. Changing role. Gov.uk is a platform that we support on behalf of government. In many cases, we do the content on behalf of government. For our transformation efforts, we're not seeking to do that. We're seeking to enable and give capability to departments to transform their own services. We gave the 8 big transactional departments a choice of which 3 services they each wanted to transform, and we helped them build the capability, bring in new suppliers, bring in new partners, and share new ways of working to transform those services, of which a bit more later. We're now 18 months through that 2-year programme. As you can see, the vast majority in beta, we've got 7 live. You can go to gov.uk/transformation and learn all about them. They're big things like changing the way we do tax, changing the way completely we do motoring, through to smaller things, but still important things, like gaining power of attorney over a loved one. These are the heartbeats, significant services, the heartbeat of central government. Some of you may know we also had a significant programme around identity assurance, which we now call gov.uk Verify. The emphasis there is on respecting the democratic wishes of the people who elected the coalition, and enabling people to verify that they are who they say they are online to government, without there being a massive central online database, which in the manifestos of the 2 parties of the coalition both rejected. So we've just literally moved into public beta. With that, it's been in private beta since February, and the first services using that public beta are just emerging today. There's a blog by DEFRA this morning about how they're going to be using it on CAP. And we have a technology team who are really about changing the way we spend across government on existing technology estate. How do we make the most of commodity opportunities? How do we make sure we learn the lessons of the past in terms of when we've been locked in? And this man here, Liam Maxwell, with his phone, is at the forefront of that shift. Huge amounts saved just by changing the way we approach the existing technology spend we have and commoditising it, and always putting the needs of the user first. And finally, we have a team that runs a performance platform. So we can share with our democratic masters how government services are performing in real time, how many people are using them, how many people are failing to use them, what's the uptime, what's the satisfaction rate, all that. And if we're going to share it with ministers, we might as well share it with the wider public. So if you go to gov.uk/performance, you'll see 80 of these performance consoles on our dashboards now, and I'm really delighted that Steve Halliday, former president of Socitm, has driven the use of exactly the same platform into Solihull, and I think it's going to Warwickshire too, I hope, around local service as well. I couldn't be more delighted that someone like Steve has taken the work we've done and applied it locally. It's genuinely exciting. Okay, enough about GDS. I know Brian said you've talked a lot about us. I'll come back to us in the end. But I want to make a point. If you really want to see how central government is changing how it approaches service delivery, which now means digital, don't fixate on GDS. We're part of the picture, we're catalysts, we're open and we're loud. Don't always agree with everybody. Don't look at us so much as look at what the rest of government is doing now, how it's changing. Look at how they're thinking about their services now. Services like this. Prison visits, booking a prison visit online. Done completely without any GDS involvement by the Ministry of Justice digital team, working with some new suppliers, working with the prison service to make it easy for loved ones and relatives of prisoners to visit a prisoner, which is in everybody's interest, I think we agree. The current process of how it works, well, you probably can guess what it's like. It's frustrating for visitors and frustrating and wasteful for prison officers as well. It involves the telephone a lot and paper a lot. So the team built, in a matter of a few weeks, a very simple service from the perspective of the user that integrates with the systems that prison officers are able to use to handle most of the booking. And within a matter of 3 months, they've got 40% of all prison visits now booked online. No marketing spend at all. Just made it easier. They give people a choice of 3 dates that they can choose, whereas previously they had no choice. Interestingly, of that 40%, 50% are booking using smartphone. All these examples I'm going to give you are responsive web design. That's the way you go. You don't do apps in our world. You do responsive web design. 50% using mobile, 16% are using tablets, and only 34% are using desktop. Think about the demographic using that. Smartphone web is the way to go if you want to reach some of its more excluded people. Similarly, a distressed group. This is Carers Allowance service. Again, I didn't say the website, the service. Built and run by DWP up in Preston, the Carers Allowance team. Amazing team. Dealing with some of the most challenged people in Britain. People who are caring for really seriously disabled people in many cases. And for whom the state wants to support them to the tune of £61 a week, but only if they ask up to 500 questions first. So the brilliant thing that Lee Mortimer and his team up in Preston have done with Carers Allowance is rather than start to build on that legacy of accreted policy, 500 questions really for £61 a week? They went back to policy and said, why are we asking these questions again? Really? And good on them for DWP policy in London. They've now got rid of over half the questions. And while it still takes 25 minutes to go through the process online, 60% of people applying for Carers Allowance now do so online, up from 28% a year ago, and they're getting 83% completion rate. And again, 40% mobile on that for a 25-minute transaction. Mobile web. Go to Swansea, go to DVLA, where the vast majority of our motoring services happen. Amazing team down there, having to deal with some serious spaghetti in terms of what their legacy they have to deal with, and some serious volumes as well of transactions. They've done a range of different things, and one of the most interesting is this one, which is driving license online. You can check how many points you've got now. You can use it now on your mobile, see how many points you've got. The reason for that? Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but to actually legally have a driving license in the UK, you need two things. You need a plastic card and a bit of paper. Okay? It's got worse, not better, thanks to the IT revolution. And in order to get rid of the paper counterpart, they've made that available online. Again, they did that by themselves, with new suppliers, new ways of working in multidisciplinary teams, agile, iterative, putting user research and user needs right at the heart of the process. Very, very little GDS involvement at all. Where we've had rather more involvement is with our colleagues in Cabinet Office and many, I suspect, of your ERO colleagues in lecture registration with this, which is register to vote, and the fundamental change in how people now need to register for vote in the UK. Moving from the head of a household deciding who had the right to vote in their house, which is a little bit patrician and Victorian, to a 20th century concept of the individual themselves deciding how to vote. Biggest change in electoral registration since universal suffrage. The wonderful part of this story, other than some fantastic blog posts about having conversations with lawyers directly, rather than trusting what third parties say lawyers are saying, is the engagement with EROs in all of your local authorities to try and make their lives easier, engagement with some very large central government departments like DWP to work really hard, can we automate this process? And most people don't even have to do anything. As well as some very, very interested ministerial stakeholders as well. And the team delivered for 1/10 of the previously budgeted cost. 80% of people automatically go through the process, and of those left, the online process takes 3 minutes and has 92% satisfaction rates. That's 1/10 of the cost of a really significant transactional service. Again, a range of different suppliers involved, and bringing talent back into government too. HMRC, for years they've known they needed to do this for businesses, which is to show businesses on one page what taxes they pay. Funnily enough, businesses quite like that, quite expect that, given that's the way that even banks work these days. Big challenge for HMRC to do that, given their legacy estate, given how siloed it is. So the very first thing the team that worked in this new way in HMRC has done, again, brought some new suppliers in, brought some new talent in, went into a new building, worked in a completely different way from where before, brought some people over from existing suppliers to work in a new way. They put an API around their legacy, and then they've been able very quickly, once they invested in that, to build services like the single tax account, and the service here that's a trivial service on one level to allow people to tell HMRC that they've changed their company car. But a trivial service online that drives enormous call centre volumes. Amazing how many call centre volumes this seems to do. How many people have company cars and how often they change them? Just do it online. Why not? You can only do that because we've invested in putting a proper ring around some pretty patchy legacy. Home Office. Home Office are really doing some interesting stuff. Again, working in a new way, with new suppliers, bringing talent back into the business. Designing services from the bottom up, not building websites. The interesting thing about this service, which allows, frankly, people from countries that we like to visit us and get visas easily. That's probably the non-PC way of putting it, but it's New Zealand and America and Commonwealth countries. The interesting thing about this is it's powered by a catalogue. It's powered by a catalogue, which is the first thing the team built, a catalogue of every single visa that the Home Office offers. And there's about 900 different types of visas. And they have built an API, a catalogue and an API to that catalogue, and this is the first service that's used it. But again, that catalogue is updated internally. It is now the canonical source of visa data inside of the Home Office. And again, it just goes direct out to services. We're not talking about websites here. We're talking about taking the authority of digital transformation to reform how you offer services. Again, very little GBS involvement at all. I could go to Environment Agency and talk about waste disposal, which is unsexy, amazingly high volume of businesses need to dispose these waste. Same story there. I could go to the Employment Tribunal and people in the Ministry of Justice, same story there. I could go to Justice again and talk about how they made it easier for you to evict a tenant as the start of transforming civil claims and small claims. I could give you literally dozens more examples. Okay. Think for the changes the opportunity that you've got. Don't look at GDS, look at stories and departments and agencies like that. They're in simpler, clearer, faster services, making a real difference to people's lives. Those services start small. They stay humble about what they assume they know about users. All of them start with an alpha. They iterate, they do research, they go to a beta, they probably do another beta as well. When they go live, they don't stop. They make sure the capability is in place to keep learning about how users are actually using the service, for good or for ill, and keep improving. In general, they cost an order of magnitude that went before. It's maybe a reflection of what went before more than their efficiency compared to the rest of the market, but they're still generally costing an order of magnitude less. And they're based on feedback from real users and continue to improve. If there's one picture I want you to take away with you today, it's this one, which is from our service manual, which describes the process that they used to be, which is policy formation, requirements capture, development, launch, and then finally the user gets something, and that's pejorative view, but generally that was the full process. The one that is inherent in starting with an understanding of what users actually need and expect, starting small and humble about how well you're going to meet those needs, and continually iterating and improving the service. So some common themes have emerged when talking to departments and agencies, and I've been around a lot personally to talk to these teams. Number one by a mile is leadership within the agency and department. Without that, at the very top of the shop, that desire to take the huge opportunity of digital transformation at the very top, without that desire, it's really hard, even for very talented technologists, designers, service designers, even operations people to really take the opportunity of transformation. The person I'd love to meet most, I've never met him, is this gentleman. This is Alan Eccles. He is the public guardian. He is the man who runs the Office of the Public Guardian, who are the people who look after power of attorney. So they're the people who represent the interests of those over which loved ones and relatives are taking control of their lives because they're not capable themselves, either mentally or physically not capable. Incredibly sensitive process of applying for power of attorney over someone, or giving it to someone else. And yet Alan Eccles walked into that job of public guardian and said, there must be a better way than the way we're doing it. There must be a better way. And sure, he went through the whole process that I talked about in terms of bringing GDS in. We did put quite a lot of effort in to help him in the early days. Going back to user needs, iterating. But the really bold thing he did was recognise quite early on that his opportunity was to change who his customers were. Previously, the process around power of attorney was so complex that the vast majority of people went to a solicitor to do it. It cost you £1,000 or £2,000 if anyone's ever done it. Actually, he recognised that that complexity had been driven by their policies. It wasn't innate in the process for most people, the vast majority of people, in fact. So why don't we simplify our policies, really simplify the process, and offer it direct to people for 100 quid online, and really promote they are our core users, not the solicitors. The solicitors are going to shout and moan, and they did, but we're going to focus on a different user group. That's very bold. He then put in some fantastic operational leadership in this lady, Kit, who had real experience of running live services. And if there's anyone who's shown me what the civil service is capable of, it's Kit. She has absolutely taken the opportunity, flourished into an exemplary service manager across all channels, highlighting how we can optimise and iterate and continually improve our service. And if you do, for reasons that may or may not be positive, need to apply for power of attorney, do it when your parents are young. That's my advice. I didn't. You'll now find the online process is a humane process. In fact, we've actually had to slow the process down to give people time to think as a family, because we could do it too quick online for actually what users need. Second leader I want to talk about is this lady who I had the pleasure of meeting for the first time on Monday night, Caroline Shepherd. Anyone know Caroline Shepherd? She is the chief adjudicator of the Traffic Penalty Tribunal. And what she's done, I think, is just fantastic. She recognised, so they're the people that if you appeal a traffic penalty and your council says no, you can go upstairs one and have another go at appealing. The process she inherited is completely paper-based, completely non-conformist across a range of different providers and councils. But at the end of the day, the decision, she realised that the actual decision happened between two sets of civil servants. They were adjudicators and some relatively senior people within councils. So she took the decision, I'm going to make this whole thing digital. I'm going to recognise that all that really needs to happen is a digital conversation between those two parties. I can strip out all the other intermediaries from the process, all the handing over of paper up and down the chain. I'm going to go completely digital. And she's done it, and she's reduced the cost, and more importantly for the users, the time taken from 8 weeks to about 6 days to run an adjudication. I didn't even know she existed. Maybe you do. Incredible story. Another amazing woman, Kath Hammer, who's the Director of Security in DWP. Imagine that job. She's a genuine leader. She has taught me more about the importance of designing security into every aspect of the service. Not perimeter security, but service design security to manage all sorts of different fraud risks than anyone else, and she's been spreading that learning across government now. I won't dwell on these, but if you really want to understand security, talk to people like Kath Hammer. Perimeter security and stopping attacks, getting over your perimeter, is frankly the easy bit. It's about designing business processes that can evolve and iterate and change really quickly overnight if they need to identify and respond to new threats of people hacking your business process, not your machines. The importance of agility around responsiveness is really, really critical. And even the Treasury have shown some fantastic leadership in changing their business approvals process. Imagine that. So there's now a new business approvals process that allows people to start small and iterate without going through a huge standard full business case process. With an outline business case, you can just get started and only come to them when you've learned something about whether users actually need your service, when you've actually got some solid evidence based on messy reality and real users. You can spend some money, up to £750,000 actually, without touching the Treasury at all. That's real leadership from the Treasury. And I hope you saw from Tony yesterday around G-Cloud that he has built on a fantastic legacy from Chris Chan and Denise McDonough around how we can transform how we buy digital services too. How we can show leadership from within the Cabinet Office to help make life easier. And it's really great to see momentum growing in central government, and I really hope to see it growing in local government too, around adoption of GPAN. So that's leadership. Without that, not much follows. Second key thing we've learned is make things open. It makes things better. So, of all the things that you can hang off open source is in some ways, for me, the least interesting. It is interesting. To arouse me, it's the least interesting. The most interesting thing about being open is the behaviours it encourages, across and between and within bits of government. I hope some of you have seen the service manual that we've put a lot of effort and will continue to put a lot more effort into improving, sharing how we work in GDS, what we do, taking what's working in departments and bringing it back and sharing it with anyone. But I want to point at the thing there next to the crown, the Digital by Default Service Standard. which is a standard that was introduced with the digital strategy in 2012 and really came to force in April this year. It's 26 points that any service needs to show it can meet. The majority of those are how it runs, not what it is. How to support it, how quickly it can change, how it can show that it's learning from its users. And every step of the way from alpha, beta to live, you go through a process, a conversation between people in GDS and the department about that standard. The really interesting part of that is, A, we're now getting a lot of people coming to us, even though they're not supposed to have a standard, don't need to, they want to anyway. We're having to run training schemes for people to self-certify within their own departments. We're having people who actually have no locus of formal accountability at all, I would say, who are paying us to run service standards, wanting to pay us. We're too busy to say yes, but extraordinary. Because one of the key reasons for that is we're completely open about the process we go through, the results. You can go and read all the outcomes on the web of all the service assessments we've done. I mean, you will do forevermore. Even the ones that fail, or that don't pass. Semantic chicanery there. So people can learn, okay, well those people failed because of that, okay, I better make sure I don't do that. You generally speaking, only see one mode of failure. You only see a particular mode of failure happen once, maybe twice, before everyone catches on and goes, okay, I've got to make sure I've got a great operations function that can update the site within a day. Otherwise, I'm definitely not going to pass. Okay? And I have to do that because I understand why I have to do that, which is if there's a new security threat or a new business process risk, I've got to be able to update the site really, really quick. That kind of understanding and that openness percolates through central government. We're also open about what we've learned and the investment we put into great user experience and great design. We share with everyone what we've learned. We're not prescriptive, actually. We're about consistency, not uniformity, but we do make some recommendations. And if you go to GDS design patterns, you can see everything from forms to layout to a style guide of language, simple language, which we're wide open with. And more than that, we're wide open to having a conversation about. On all those pages, there's a link to HackPad, where conversations about why have you done that? We've done it this way. Why don't you try it this way? Are active and happening all the time. We would love local government to be part of that conversation. The door is open, literally, just go and go in. And yet, we do, by default, tend to open source the code, any code that we've written. That's not because we're dogmatic. That's because we believe that if taxpayers funded something, then the taxpayer should be able to use it. And the benefits for us are really twofold of generally going open source. One, and most importantly in some ways, if you look around the world at the kind of organisations that are doing really well in the digital space, and you talk to their technologists, they're using open source, because generally speaking it's better if you talk to them. And secondly, second reason is, if we are open source and we do allow people within the public realm, be that in the UK or outside the UK, to reuse specific aspects of code that we've written and improve it, we can benefit from their improvements too. We've already benefited across government dozens and dozens of times with little improvements from reused code, and we've even started benefiting from the fact that New Zealand took our entire code base for gov.uk and used it, and have done some very clever things with it that we've now branched back in. And if anyone says you that Cheltenham say no, then just read this. Okay. If anyone in the UK government says CSG is banned open source, send me their name and I'll have them killed. Illegally, quote unquote. Okay. There's lots and lots and lots of open source in Cheltenham for all the same reasons I've given. And it's really great, from a personal example, to see some of that, some of the opportunities of that openness being taken without any of us even knowing. I was cycling down the south side of the Thames 10 days ago, and I came to Gravesend, where there's a ferry back over to the north side of the river. I live on the north side of the river. And I went online and I looked and I found this from Thurrock Council. Really good, straight from Google to here, really nicely designed landing page. Okay, the timetable's in PDF, but you can't have everything. And I went, oh, that's nice, that's a nicely responsive page. I sort of recognised that. And I zoomed out the page, and sure enough, they've used gov.uk templates and front-end code. And I could not be more delighted. A, they haven't bothered writing their own, but B, do you know how much money we've invested in testing that from the user's perspective over the last 3 years? We really have optimised the hell out of that. And you might as well have it. And even the Treasury. I've been in the Treasury for the past 3 months, helping them do a delivery project around the reform of private pensions. They want to themselves develop a service, multi-channel service, to help those who have more freedom than they used to around their private pensions. Interesting, they wanted to do it now. They want in on the game. And they've done the same thing, multidisciplinary team, bring in new supplier, bring in some of their best people, go iterative. The alpha's just about to go out, there'll be betas before it goes live in April. And a key part of that, obviously offering pensions guidance to people, is being able to book a slot, either for the phone or face-to-face. And it was just joyful. I didn't even have to say anything. Because where did they go? They went straight to the prison service team and said, can we have your date picker, please? And within a day, they had the ability to book a slot, which is more than just the front end, it's the back end too, ready to go within a day. And I'm sure they'll make some improvements, and hopefully the business service people using it will pick it back, or will adopt it as well. And there's something interesting here, some echoes here, I hope, of some of the things that Mark said yesterday, Mark Thompson. I'm really disappointed I wasn't able to be here for that, because we really are getting quietly excited, but cautiously excited around the opportunities for common platforms. And we're cautious because we recognise that the hubris of thinking you can draw a picture of the world with beautiful, shared, common platforms, and everyone's going to use them and do all the fun. We are not going to be doing that. But we are seeing services demonstrate that they would benefit and ask, actually, for common services. We're getting a lot of demand from inside central government to say, can't you just do the location thing? You're doing the identity thing, will you bloody hurry up? Great, we've got the booking thing, can we systematise that and have that properly supported? And. We're starting to get multiple different services, multiple perspectives, identify where they would benefit from common platforms. Emergent platforms, not top-down. That's the game we're in. We have no interest in forcing a platform ecology on anyone. Outside central government, if you force platforms down people's throats, generally speaking, it doesn't work. If you can evolve them and emerge them from services that prove that they need them, then that's actually where you might get to some very interesting places. The places that good digital businesses are already in this world. We've got it. And so, to conclude, we're in the middle of some seismic changes in central government. Massive changes. We're really, really, really busy. Really busy. Playing catch up. How do we view local government? Well, very focused around GDS sphere. How does GDS view? How do we interact with local government? Actually, not very much at all. G-Cloud hopefully lots and more. But actually, one of the ways is around gov.uk. We recognise in the early days of gov.uk that a lot of people, a large minority, don't understand the difference between central and local government. They were liable to come to a central government website looking for local government service. So we invested heavily in making this user journey simple. You need a repair to a council property, bang, you have your default landing page in Google is a gov.uk page, you put your postcode in. We then have a back-end system that collects data, collects the links for hundreds of common local government services across hundreds of councils. We do a deep link, and if you're in Birmingham, oh, well, good luck if you're in Birmingham. The fact that this doesn't work on a mobile phone is the least of its problems. It just doesn't work at all. I'm a Brummie, so I'm not going to say anything about Birmingham. Much more positively, if you follow this user journey, in terms of how we see local government, around reporting potholes, it's much, much more interesting. I'm not going to talk about Birmingham or Liverpool. Because what you find is on the same user journey, okay, there's a thing on gov.uk for report a pothole. But if you go to Barnet, there's actually a really quite slick service there, reporting a pothole. It's nice, it works on the mobile phone. Same in Hart, same in Stevenage. Okay, these are good things. They're really, really nicely done. I could have picked another dozen. They're really there. In many ways, they've been there longer than gov.uk, and they're as good, if not slicker, than some of the services I showed you earlier. Okay, you are showing us the way in many ways. But the really interesting one, the one I want to talk about, where I feel humbled, frankly, I didn't know about it already, is what happens if you click the very top link, which is an ad, and you actually go to fixmystreet.com, which applies to the whole of the UK. And I'm a former founder and trustee of My Society who made the site, so I should know about it. But it is a very slick way of people reporting issues with their street to councils, and the way they have been working, we've been chucking emails over the wall of the local council. Okay? Not great for anybody, really. What I didn't know was what happened in Camden. And what happened in Camden is genuinely strategically important, I think. Which is, Camden took the fact that Fix My Street people were willing to adopt an open standard. It's actually an American open standard called the Open 311, standard about reporting geographic issues for councils. They adopted that standard, so did Camden internally with their systems. And Fix My Street, the public-facing site that gets an awful lot of traffic, now integrates directly, effortlessly through open standards with the back end, two-way back end of Camden. Now, it might be that Fix My Street gets rubbish over the years. Maybe there'll be new competitors. Do you know what? There's an open standard in the middle now. It's dead easy. Dead easy for Camden. It's actually dead easy for third-party organisations to be able to integrate as well. That is what Martha meant by build it properly with APIs. And we've barely begun to do it in the central government. Camden's already done it. So my hero of the day is John Jackson. I don't know if he's here. But absolute hero. Good. Thank you, John. Genuine hero. That is the real deal. So, finally, I can't not mention this. I tried not to mention it. But everybody I've spoken to in local government for the past year has asked what I think about local GDS. Should we have a local GDS? We shouldn't have a local GDS. Allow some consternation, because not one single person that's asked me that question has had the same understanding of the problem they want a local GDS to solve, nor what a local GDS would be to solve that problem. Both halves of the question and the answer are foggy. Now, so I'd ask you to stop talking about local GDS because you're not talking the same language. What's much more interesting is why that debate is so loud right now. Okay? The fact that there is a debate, and it's a lot of difference, and there's a lot of noise, and it's informed, very well informed in many cases, is the interesting thing. There's a lot of people out there who know there's a better way, a much better way. Getting there is not easy, and Lord, heavens above, I don't know how you do it from a local council context. It looks really hard from where I sit. It's tough in central government, I suspect it's tougher for you. But there's a prize, there's a different way of working. Be it platformed, be it, I don't know, there's a different way of working. And the fact there's a debate happening, and it's around the word GDS, it probably has nothing to do with GDS. It actually has a lot to do to the fact that you as a community are going to be the people who lead in terms of finding the answer to how you get to a very different place. Not GDS. We're not going to do it from white. We're not going to tell you how to do it. You don't know. You know, and I suspect the leaders of that revolution, your revolution, are in this room today. I know there's one at the back with John. I suspect there's many more that I don't know. So on that note, thank you very much.